All right, you can start talking now.
Hey, BFFFs, or Beer Fueled Fantasy Football family. Big shout out to today's sponsor of the show, Squad QL. It is the roster management assistant you need to help you win your league. Squad QL gives you an advantage by directly connecting to any league on Yahoo, ESPN, or CBS. Pulls in your roster. Questions. We have questions.
What does QL stand for?
I actually don't know.
Quality life.
Somebody tweet at us what the answer is to that.
Fucking hell.
Pulls in your roster, league settings, and scoring system. Provide recommendations on waiver moves, help you get your lineup set, and make some trade recommendations so you can win your league in 2018. So head to squadql.com to download the all-in-one fantasy football manager app, and also check out RotoQL if you're interested in playing some DFS over at rotoql.com.
I should probably start using that so I don't lose money every week.
That's why they're sponsoring the show.
That's what all that overtime's for, right? So you can just lose money.
It's there, right? Not doing that any
buttons.
Sure.
And welcome back to a Fuck It, We'll Do It live version of Beer Fueled Fantasy Football.
That's every episode. Just a reminder, we don't edit, and I was rocking out a little too hard to the intro and accidentally stopped the intro.
So hopefully you were rocking out and enjoyed the
He rocked out so hard it just stopped. It was like, nah, fam, we gotta start over again.
Touchpads are weird.
All right, well, we are Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. I'm Nick Sparts, joined by Rockin' Too Hard Christopher Hopper.
Hot BFF with 2 B's.
And across the table from me, Daniel Thury.
Daniel Thury, wow.
Daniel.
F30 BFF with 2 Fs.
All right. At Beerfield FF, if you want to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or Untapped, check out all the can art, beer reviews that you can get on those other platforms. If you want to watch on the video where Hopper was rocking out too hard and hit the...
You actually can't see that because the logo was up.
Oh, so they don't even get to see it.
You just hear it stop.
All right. Well, check us out anywhere on YouTube, Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. Subscribe there. That's the only place where you can get the Sunday morning live shows at 10:30 a.m. Central. You get at least 2 of us there. Hopper and me will be there minimum. Dan will often join us.
A great response so far on those too.
Yeah,
like,
we're
well
20-ish,
done, guys.
So
yeah,
we keep increasing.
Keep it up.
Keep telling all your friends to come watch us.
We are
Sunday morning.
It's fun.
Yes, shamelessly self-promote for us. Do our job.
I'm kind of enjoying it.
Hey, if they like us, they'll tell people.
Big shout out to everyone who did come out. And also, to help, if you want to help out the show here, just as one last thing, like and comment on all of our videos. It really helps drive traffic to those. Subscribe to the channel already if you haven't. Drop us reviews on iTunes. And if you feel like really helping out and want to toss some money our way, we got shirts and hats available as being modeled by Thury BFF across the table from me. And we do have a Patreon available. You can DM at BeerFieldFF or email beerfieldfantasy@gmail.com if you're interested in either of those options.
Beer Fuel.
All right, and fueling us today so we can get through 15 game previews in a hurry here is Ironica IBA by...
Reviews?
Reviews. Whatever we're doing today, we'll get it done. It's Ironica IPA by Five Rabbits Brewing Company. It's out of Bedford Park, Illinois. This is Five Rabbits' first time on the show. Ironica is a 6.6 IPA.
6.66 IPA.
Repeating,
it's on the bottle. It says 6.66.
No, they did it on purpose, I think.
Yeah, they did.
Repeating, of course. We'll give you a full review once we are through the noon games.
News.
And in between games ending last night and today, stuff's happened. So
a lot of
news to talk about.
A lot of stuff happened.
Up first, we've got Carson Wentz being cleared for contact. He will return week 3 against the Colts.
It's a great matchup for him to come back into. Good for everything involved on this team.
Yep, hopefully he can do better than Alex Smith did against the Colts.
Hopefully.
Yeah, you'd hope. Hopefully he's not too rusty.
All right, NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports that the Bucs might hold off, quote-unquote, on starting Jameis Winston when he returns from suspension week 4.
Probably should.
Oh, Fitzmagic, you know.
So if I remember right, they do have a short week going into week 4. They play the Monday night game week 3, and then they have to play on Sunday, so they may wait till after their bye to bring Jameis back in week 6.
If.
If.
That's okay. Fitzpatrick is probably going to Fitzpatrick at some point.
Oh, he will.
He'll go from magic to tragic.
It's how it normally goes. Ryan Fitztragic.
All right, now the biggest news that the internet is melting down over. Patriots acquire wide receiver Josh Gordon from the Browns in exchange for a conditional 5th-round pick in the 2019 draft. Apparently, there is also a conditional pick that will go back to the Patriots if he starts less than 10 games.
And they waive Corey Coleman.
And they waive Corey Coleman
You just
to make
can't
room.
escape that.
He's like, nah, fam.
He's not. So you have been gifted another opportunity to sell Josh Gordon high.
Yeah, please do so.
And I think that you should do that unless you're just not relying on him for anything and he's stashed at the back of your bench, and you're a contender maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
The thing with Gordon is that you're hoping for Randy Moss, and that's the exception rather than the rule, especially for wide receivers that get traded mid-season or late into training camp. They take so long to adjust to the new playbook to get fully integrated and involved in that offense. We've seen it with Sammy Watkins before. You've seen, I think Ocho Cinco had troubles adjusting to that offense. A lot of people don't catch on there.
No, this is not an easy offense for anyone to learn. Do not expect him to come up week 3 and just explode.
And like you see so many receivers that get brought to here. Like New England isn't the time like, yay, I want to have Tom Brady's 3rd or 4th receiver on my roster no matter what. Those days are gone. And Josh Gordon and so many other receivers are probably going to end up struggling here. Just as Hopper said, it's a very difficult system to learn.
Yeah, if he does blow up, good. But
Yeah.
I think that that's probably a lesser percentage of happening than you being disappointed by this. So I would say you take the chance to sell him high while you can.
Yeah, and he's definitely a sell for me in redraft. He's either a sell or maybe a hold in Dynasty.
Right.
Because they do get the ability to keep him as a restricted free agent after the season. So long term, he may be able to pick the offense up. Just don't expect it in week 3.
Yeah,
We'll see.
But if you're looking to get out from under him in Dynasty, if you don't believe in him, you don't trust him, this is probably your last chance to do it.
Yeah. I'm also, if you don't believe him in Dynasty, you've probably sold him a long time ago.
We'd hope. You never know.
ESPN's Adam Schefter reports Martavis Bryant has indeed been given another year-long suspension, but the NFL is allowing him to play while it's on appeal. So that is the background of all
So
that.
he's on borrowed time.
So it's like Zeke.
Yep. So basically what the Raiders did is they signed him until this hammer comes down.
All right.
Rashard Perryman lands with the Redskins.
Yay.
Have fun.
I'll talk more about them later.
All right. Vikings sign Aldrick Robinson, as I rumor he may be the Treadwell replacement.
Yeah, could be. Very quick slot guy. It's kind of what they need. So,
He played with Cousins in Washington, too.
yep.
All right. Vikings signed Dan Bailey and waived Daniel Carlson.
This is the news of the day.
Everybody saw this coming. If there's a fantasy player you should be excited about changing teams, it's Dan Bailey.
Well, I'm fucking pumped.
And gets to stay in a dome.
Yeah, pick him up if you need kickers.
And if you own Daniel Carlson like a lot of us did, you need one.
I
Do
do.
not let Lindsay pick up Dan
Yeah.
Bailey.
No, Lindsay, I've told to pick up Mason Crosby.
Thank you.
There you go.
I like what you're doing there.
For those of you that don't get that reference, my fiance Lindsay, aka Live Studio Audience, has the kiss of death for kickers. Every kicker she's owned since last year, which is her first year playing, is no longer on an NFL team.
No,
It's pretty impressive.
She owned Dan Bailey before, so he is now on an NFL
He's
team.
now back, but he got cut.
Well, he got cut, so he got washed away.
Yeah.
This is his research.
fresh start.
Fresh start for
No,
him.
this is his rebirth on
He is
his franchise.
rebirth. He is risen like the phoenix.
All right. Browns signed kicker Greg Joseph, which we all went who to. Apparently, he was kicker that
All of Twitter went who to.
he was on Miami. Apparently, he did well in preseason and almost won their starting spot.
Yeah, did well in preseason, but in college he's a career 69.5% kicker.
I mean, there's also
So-
kickers who had like 90% college kick rates, and they washed out in the NFL. So who knows?
Looking at you, Roberto
He
Aguayo.
can't be much worse than Zane Gonzalez.
And then they waived Zane Gonzalez. He was the first one to go, so he is the winner of the kicker Deadpool.
Yeah. Now, as far as Joseph goes, don't run out and pick him up. He's a relative unknown, and the offense is kind of sputtered anyway. So,
yeah.
Yep. And I don't think they kick indoors again for a few weeks, which is kind of the main place you're targeting a wild card kicker. And then it's kind of the weirdest twist from this week. Bills cornerback Vontae Davis retired at halftime of Sunday's Week 2 game and just left the stadium.
How bad of a team can you be to force somebody to want to retire at
Oh.
halftime?
so I love this move personally because how many of you out there, and I know all three of us in this room have just been having a bad day at work and wanted to say, screw it, I'm done,
Say,
and,
"Fuck it, I'm
and
going
walk
home."
out.
I almost pulled a Vontae Davis at work today.
Without saying anything to anybody, just screw it, I'm done, and walk out. Because that's what Vontae Davis did. He's living the American dream right now.
It's the American dream.
I may pull a Vontae Davis by the end of the week, so he's kind of my hero right now.
Nick's gonna go out and buy one of his Buffalo Bills jersey if he can find one.
I'm buying the Colts one.
and then walk into work, grab my stuff, and just leave.
That's right. I'm channeling
Wearing
my
the
favorite
jersey.
player while wearing the jersey.
my inner Vontae.
All right. Well, that's enough on the news. Let's start recapping week 2.
What the hell happened?
All right. And just to kind of set the stage for week 2, by the time this episode actually drops, the NFL will probably have set the single week passing touchdown record.
It was fucking insane.
We're at 61 right now with Monday night to go. So if they get, and the record is
and
63.
Monday night will probably be close to halftime by the time this actually goes up.
So the record may have already been set at 64.
Yep.
All right, kicking us off with the game with the most passing touchdowns in it. Chiefs at the Steelers. Chiefs win this one 42-37, 79
the over.
points.
Hope
Crushed
you
the
bet
over 52.5. Hopper, what all happened in this game besides way too much scoring?
All right, starting with the Chiefs. Mahomes was fantastic again. 326, 6 touchdowns, no picks. He's on pace for 80 touchdowns this year.
And 0 picks.
He's just already got 10.
He had more touchdowns than incompletions.
Yeah, he
Yes.
did. So likely not going to hit 80, but really, really good start. Is he just a week-to-week start from now on until he gives you a reason not to?
He's got Jacksonville week 5, and that's the only one I'm even hesitating
Well,
at.
you
And
hesitate
even then-
against on everybody
Yeah.
against Jacksonville, though. Kareem Hunt, 18 for 75 on the ground, 1-5-1 as a receiver. That's 1 reception for 5 yards and a touchdown. People want to hate on him, but I feel like that's a relatively solid day. It's just not the mid to low running back 1 you're hoping for. That's a high running back 2.
He's where-
most weeks.
With how low scoring was this week, that is a borderline running back 1 week. Running back
Right.
scoring was bad outside of like 3 guys.
So I don't really get the Kareem Hunt hate that's flying around right now or the selling him or anything like that because he's on a high-powered offense and he's still involved.
Yeah, and Mahomes is not going to throw 80 touchdowns. There's going to be some that'll go to Hunt.
Yes, and
Yeah.
this was game scripted to where he needs to throw. They knew they need to throw to win in this game, so why the fuck would you go away from that?
And Hunt still gave you on what most weeks.
Yeah.
Most weeks would be a high-end RB2 day.
Yeah,
So
he still gave you in what half point for PO 14.5 points.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's not bad.
So I just don't get the hate there. Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, they both did what you expect them to do. Travis Kelsey gave you the blow-up game that he's just been capable of giving you. Tyreek Hill kind of gave you close to what his floor is, actually, minus the touchdown. I mean, he was 7 for 90. So
in 1/2 too, because I think he went pretty.
He was-
I think
he was shut out
He was
at
shut out
halftime.
first half, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
it was all Watkins and Kelsey first half.
It's impressive.
Speaking of Watkins, he finally broke out after 2 years with a huge game, going 6 for 101. This is another flash in the pan type thing from him, or are you more confident with him going forward?
I'm significantly more confident with him going forward. This was one of his probably easiest matchups of the year, but this also could have been a much bigger day. Mahomes straight up missed him on another bomb that could have been his second touchdown.
And if Mahomes is comfortable with him or becoming comfortable with him, then this offense just took another level, and you want to own him.
Yeah, he had a couple really nice plays this week too.
I'm gonna fade him in tough matchups, but other than that, the Chiefs are going to be relatively needing to throw in most games.
Probably
so it's
in
fine.
the mid to low 2 conversation most weeks,
Threes.
high 3 at worst.
Yeah.
Low 2s to mid 3 range.
Yep. All right, that's all I got on the Chiefs. Moving on to the Steelers. Big Ben was home. Big Ben, which you get used to that with him. James Conner 8 for 17 and 1 on the ground, so not a very great day. The touchdown kind of salvaged that, but Melvin Gordon also wasn't that efficient against the Chiefs. But Conner was 5 for 48 through the air. He came back to earth some, but to me, he's still a must start as long as Bell's not back.
Yes.
This one also got weird game script wise where they just were like, screw it, we're not running this game effectively. So, and also it seems like the Chiefs might be tough to run against, but really easy to pass to running backs
Well,
against.
That's what I noticed.
really difficult
That was
to
the
know.
note I had with Gordon also, is that he was inefficient as a runner, but he tore him up as a receiver. So, early on, it looks like that's what they're going to be.
We'll see what adjustments they make.
Antonio Brown, 9 for 67 for a floor day. That was on 17 targets. Any concerns about him and Ben being out of sync?
This whole news got blown out of proportion.
with the amount of volume that it took to get him there.
He's still getting 17 targets. He'll be fine. He
Fair enough.
apparently is dealing a little with a calf issue, so monitor that and see if he's practicing. But beyond injury, I'm zero concerns about AB.
Yeah. Juju gave you a ceiling, 19 targets, 13 receptions, 121 yards, and a touchdown.
Man, we thought people might be a little too high on him, and I think
they weren't.
they were too low.
I had him as both ones. I had the Ron one ranked.
No, I don't mean this week. I mean so far through the season, through 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's starting to look that way.
Yeah, because the 4th round is apparently about right for him.
Yeah,
Maybe 3rd.
Yeah, he's producing up there with guys like Diggs and Thielen right now.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Jesse James has seen 5 targets each of the last 2 weeks. He's amassed 8 receptions for 198 yards and a TD. I think you run him out there week to week, especially with the attrition at tight end right now.
I think McDonald had one or 2 targets.
Yeah.
It looks like James is the guy, and it looks like he's the number 3 target on this team right now.
Yeah.
So I think you run him out. That's all I got on that game. Steelers defense not very good.
Yeah, we've
noticed.
expected
known.
All right, slightly more in control game. Dolphins beat the Jets 20-10. Dan, kick us off.
20-12.
20-12.
I don't think it was that much control. So we'll start with the Dolphins. Aaron Tannehill had a solid NFL day, had a solid fantasy day. He started him 17-23, buck 68 and 2 touchdowns. Also had 44 rushing yards, but he did lose a fumble. He's so hard to trust as a weekly starter, just with the amount of offense we've seen here and just the amount of QB streaming here. But it's a nice start for him.
This is what he does in emergency situations, though, is he gives you about 14 or 15 points. So if you get into bipocalypse and need a fill-in, you can do worse.
Yeah, and he got to play game management mode as the Dolphins were in hand for most of this game. Drake's day was saved by a touchdown. He's only accounted for 70 total yards and 15 touches. 11 of those were carries, 4 of those were catches. But he so safely controls his backfield. He's out-snapped Gore 60% to 40% in this game. I think you can be a little bit lower on him. He's maybe not a mid to high RB2, but more of a low to mid RB2 here now. With that RB2, with a higher RB2 upside, we just need to see more volume from him.
Yeah. Gore's usage did go down though,
yes,
and his efficiency was a lot worse. So hopefully that starts to trend the right direction.
And then as for the receivers, because Miami was controlled for this game, and Tannehill only threw the ball 23 times. None of the receivers really did anything. If you started AJ Derby for whatever reason, or Albert Wilson, their days were bailed out by touchdowns. Sorry for those Kenny Stills owners out there like myself. 3 targets, 2 receptions, 17 yards. Yeah, and as for their next games coming up, Raiders, Pats, and Bengals, I do expect a better game script, so don't get too sour on Stills and drop them.
Yeah, Jets are a much better defense than they get credit for.
Yeah,
they are.
They shut them out in the second half. They fell down early.
Shut them out the second half. They looked good on Monday night last week. So, just something you're going to start fading people against them.
Yeah, and then speaking of the Jets here, Sam Darnold had a decent stat line, finished 25 of 41 for 334 yards and 1 touchdown. He did throw 2 picks. Wasn't a great day in terms of that, but you got to see what we could expect of them when the Jets get down and he has to throw, which is going to be what we're probably going to see these next 3 weeks as the Jets will be facing the Browns, Jaguars, and Broncos. So Darnold may not be a streamable option, but he's not the worst for bipocalypse if the Jets figure their passing game out.
Yeah, that's not until like week 8 or 9, though, so we got some time for him to figure his shit out.
Exactly. As for their running game, which is where things get a little more, I guess, newsworthy here. Crowell got the majority of the touches over Powell, 14-10. Powell did out-snap him, though, I think 52-50%. But Powell had the good day. Finished with 6 targets, 5 receptions, 74 yards, and a touchdown. Neither of them can get anything going on the ground, and game script kind of got flipped on its head early on, which made Crowell kind of dead in the water there because Powell is the pass-catching back in this offense. Given their next 3 games coming up, Browns, Jaguars, and Broncos, I actually like Powell over Crowell, and Crowell I think is more of a sit than a drop at this point.
I agree with that.
And then as for the receivers, Quincy Newell proves again he's the wide receiver 1 in the Jets offense. Proves also again that he should be starting almost every single week. 11 targets, 7 receptions, 92 yards. Didn't get a touchdown this week, but you got to see in how this offense is shaping out where a guy like Quincy Newell is. Right now, he's a wide receiver 3 flex guy for me every week, and he has a wide receiver 2 upside.
Agreed.
And then as for the other receivers, you can drop them. Pryor finished with 8 targets, but that's a lot of passes. Anderson finished with 5, neither of them anything with them.
I mean,
I thought Pryor had a pretty good day. His yardage was up there in the 6.
Yeah,
4 for 48 he finished.
Pryor?
Yes.
I thought he was higher than that.
He still got 8 targets, though, on 41 attempts, which is not an absurdly high number.
No.
So I think Pryor's rosterable. Anderson is not.
I wouldn't roster either of them because the Jets still have yet to prove that they can hold more than one receiver in terms of fantasy relevance. And Pryor did. I mean, it's good to see that he's probably the clear 2, but Robbie Anderson still all-snapped Pryor by about 20%.
Okay.
So I would stay clear until that shapes up more, at least for me.
Hey, 8 targets over a season, a game over a season is about 130 targets.
Yeah,
so.
you also have to think 3 against.
Well, and I'll say it again too. I don't really care how much you're on the field. It's what you do when you're on the field.
That's true.
That's me though. He was 4 for 84.
Yeah, that's
prior.
I must have read the right.
That's
Well,
pretty good.
Yeah, 4
yardage wise was good. Sure.
Yeah, he was 4 for 84, which is a little better than a Cooper Cup day.
Yeah,
so we'll talk a bit more about him later, though.
Let's see. I just want to see a little more.
All right.
From him.
Let's go ahead and jump into the disappointing game of the week for many reasons. Browns at the Saints. Saints win this one 21-18. So this was not the shootout we were hoping for. Taylor was an efficient passer. He's putting up 8.2 yards per attempt, but has only 1 touchdown. He threw a pick, and he was pretty limited rushing the ball. So he didn't give us the top 12 performance we were aiming for here on the fast track. For me, losing Gordon does take a bit of the shine off of Taylor, kind of what we were hoping for coming into the season. So it kind of puts him back in kind of that murky field of what about 10 to 12 guys that are possible streamers week in, week out.
Well, and the offense hasn't been as good overall as expected either. So, yeah, he's definitely back down there.
Yeah, there's been a lot of issues with it, not least of which has kind of been Carlos Hyde. He's got back-to-back weeks here where he's been under 3 yards a carry. He's got 105 yards on 38 carries so far this season. He's had a touchdown in both games to kind of save his day, but it's been ugly. So either he's got to pick up the pace, because I don't think he's going to put up 840 yards and 304 carries this year and get a little bit more efficient, or they're going to start giving the ball to Chubb, who's looked better.
Just keep this monitored. It hasn't changed yet, but start to monitor the situation.
Yep, this could be something to keep an eye on. Also, Duke Johnson is barely getting used at all,
which is fucking sad.
So
that's got to course correct at some point.
You
hope so.
would think
they just paid him.
Duke Johnson may be droppable at this point, though. They've basically not used him through 2 games, and these should be the games where they like come in and like we know what we're going to do for at least the first quarter.
I'm not cutting the cord yet.
Yeah.
I would definitely firmly.
He's on timeout. He's on timeout.
Yes, he's
you
in
do
the
not
corner,
start
but I'm
him
not
anymore.
cutting the cord yet.
He's on timeout.
We didn't get the blow-up game from Landry that we were hoping for, but he was still solid. 5 for 69, 7 targets.
It's his floor most weeks.
And he's getting some downfield targets. He had another catch that was over 30 yards. Rest of the volume was split between Higgins with 7 targets, Njoku with 7, and Callaway with 4. There was basically no volume to running backs. 3 total targets to running backs in this game. Overall, though, so it looks like Higgins, Callaway are decent targets, and Njoku should course correct if he's getting 7 targets a game, even though it's been ugly for 2 weeks. So hold him. Just probably may not want to start him until we see it.
Timeout.
Defense has been really good through 2 games. 7 forced sacks, 8 turnovers through 2 games, giving up 21 points a game. And now they get the Jets, the Raiders, and the Ravens the next 3 games. You may want to just pick up the Browns and start him for the next 3 weeks.
You could. He's very viable.
I don't trust Thursday night games apparently anymore because they're all high scoring, but this is still
against a rookie, I'm rolling him out there.
This is still a good matchup.
All right, moving on to the Saints. Passing game was carrying the team again in week 2. It was a lot less explosive, though. Breeze was only at 6.9 yards per attempt. 2 touchdowns kind of limited his day, but you should have better games with the Falcons and Giants next up, which you do expect a little bit more scoring out of and less of a kind of struggle fuck. Running game has been a complete disaster, though, without Ingram. They've got 101 yards on 34 attempts through 2 games. Kamara gets all his work basically through the air right now, and he's been pretty marginal as a runner outside of a couple touchdowns. So basically, they need Ingram back to reestablish the running game. But post-bye week, it's really ugly for the Saints. This is their schedule after their bye week in week 5. Week 6, they're at the Ravens. Week 7 is at the Vikings. Week 8 is home versus the Rams. Then they go to the Bengals in week 9, home versus the Eagles week 10.
Oof.
That's
a lot.
I still go out there and try to buy Ingram,
but yeah,
I'm still holding him.
It is an ugly slate.
Don't sell him. I may even try to get tired and buying him.
All right, Michael Thomas continues to be a stud. Looks to have his touchdown efficiency fixed from last year. He had 5 all of 2017. He's already got 3 this season. Ginn looks to be the second pass catcher as we saw in week 1. For me, he's the only other one worth rostering in any sort of normal size league.
He's on pace for 24.
I think that'll cool down a little bit.
Thomas, yeah.
Ben Watson got missed on a wide open touchdown, and he's kind of part of that 8 to 25 group that's just a mess to start week to week, but he should have had one this week. If it's a decent matchup, I wouldn't mind rolling him out there again. Defense got themselves right in this one, but they have a tough slate this year. In the next 2 months, they only have 2 startable games. Week 4, they got at the Giants. In week 5, versus the Redskins. That's about it.
So I don't even really like those matchups.
Those aren't great matchups. No. They're just okay.
They're good.
But yeah, so I'd consider dropping the Saints for somebody else at this point. All right. Colts were at the Redskins. Hopper, you're up next. Colts win this one 21-9.
This was a lot uglier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, me too.
Starting with the Colts, Andrew Luck gave you his floor. 21 for 31 is fine efficiency-wise, but that was only for 179 yards and 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. In the running game, Nyheim Hines was hardly used at all. He did snag a touchdown on a goal line carry for whatever reason. Meanwhile, Wilkins and Mack both saw 10 carries and 2 targets, but Wilkins almost doubled Mack's rushing yardage, and he picked up more receiving yards. So what are your takeaways from this backfield?
It's a mess.
You bench Mack, and I wouldn't. There's no reason to. It's tough because
all 3 probably
all
should be
3 of
owned,
them
and
are
you
getting-
hope one of them gets hurt to clear it up.
But even then,
I don't know. Wilkins is my favorite at this point, just being the more efficient runner and seeing even touches to what Mack did with Hines pretty much being killed.
I
Let's
mean,
see how
Mack
next
was
week's-
still limited coming into this game too,
Yeah,
though, so he may not be.
they get
100%.
Philly next
We'll
week,
see
which
if he
is
comes
very
up, but
tough.
Hines is the one I'm lowest on right now, just because he was 1 for 7 if it wasn't for the touchdown.
I won't hate him much
That's
next
all
week.
that saved him. And then T.Y. Hilton was the only viable wide receiver in this one. No one else, wide receiver or tight end, saw more than 5 targets or went for more than 30 yards. Ebron did have the touchdown, which is what you hope for if you're starting him. Hilton had a touchdown, 83 yards. That's all I've got on the Colts. They're pretty messy this week.
Yeah, they didn't really have to score much in this game though, because
No, they
as you're
didn't.
about to get to,
That game
Yeah.
script flip for them. We
Yeah.
weren't expecting.
Alex Smith, disappointing. 292 yards, took 3 sacks, no touchdowns, no picks. Didn't kill you. Well, maybe kind of killed you.
that killed you.
It didn't really
That was
help.
his floor day.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
He barely ran too.
That's just
Chris Thompson was the best wide receiver on the team. 13 receptions for 92 yards. Adrian Peterson carried 11 times for only 20 yards. He did catch 3 balls for 30. How's AP the rest of the season? Because you kind of got in a dud following a blow up, which is what my concern was. Because last year at the Cardinals, you
Yeah.
saw 1 blow up and then he was shit.
Flex for me.
And also, as we're seeing here, the Cardinals are garbage.
The Cardinals are garbage.
They may be worse than the Bills. Like they are awful.
Yeah, at least the Bills can put up some points.
So yeah, I don't know how much to take away from week 1. I kind of want to see a little bit more. I don't hate Peterson.
He's
at this
matchup
point,
dependent, I
but
think right now.
I think so.
Still.
Well, this should have been a good matchup.
This should have been. You are right.
I'm not sure if the Colts are better than we thought, because the Bengals have also overperformed through 2 weeks. So maybe
Right.
it's that maybe the Colts are better than we thought, and the Bengals are just really
In
good.
that young D line and some of those pieces.
Yeah.
Well, the Redskins also did lose a lineman too. So
Yeah, they lost Scherf
Scherf.
early.
the wide receiver core, this is also pretty terrible. Crowder had only 4 targets, but he was behind Richardson, Reed, Doxson after a poor week 1. Firmly in timeout.
Yeah, he's in timeout, and
He's on the verge of being droppable.
1 or
Yeah.
2 more bad weeks, and you kick
This
him.
sucks
Yep.
too.
Um,
So high on him. In this
Paul
offense.
Richardson, on the other hand, though, was 4 for 63, his second week of seeing 6 targets. So he might be my favorite to emerge from this as kind of flex viable week to week.
If someone told me they're going to drop Crowder and pick up Richardson, I don't blame him. Honest, I don't.
Chasing targets is not a bad strategy.
No, chasing targets is usually okay, especially when it's consistent week in and week out. You don't want to chase receptions or yards or points, but chasing targets isn't terrible.
And no one's out there trying to pick up Crowder at this point if
Right.
he's dropped. So I mean, like I said, you can hold Crowder, but if someone wants to drop him for Richardson, that's fine.
Defenses in both of these games are probably fine, but that's more game script for the Redskins or for the Redskins because the Colts just stopped trying to score points. And I don't know if it was offensive ineptitude or the Colts defense being better than we thought. We'll have to wait and see on that one. So,
All right, that all you got for those?
yeah, Hopkins and his 49 yarders. That's all.
3 of them.
Ugly. All right, Eagles at the Buccaneers for the game of Do You Want Double the Magic? Buccaneers win this one 27-21.
So before we get to the magic, let's stick with the not so magical. The Eagles, Nick Foles, while it was in an above average Nick Foles week, once is back week 3, so you can drop Nick Foles. As for the running game here, with Foles inactive, Ajayi going down early with an injury, Clement give you a very solid stat line finish, 6 for 30 and on the ground with a touchdown, 6 targets, 55 receptions for 55 yards. Ajayi is banged up. And Sproles is probably going to, I'm assuming, he's going to keep missing more time. I like Clement moving forward here. Ajayi, though, when he did get back into the game, he did finish his day with a touchdown late in the third quarter. I still like Ajayi, especially with Wentz coming back. I am okay with Ajayi as my RB2. As for the receivers, though, with with Alshon Jeffrey now playing, Nelson Aguilar is wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside, especially with Wentz coming back here. You can play him safely.
Jeffrey's practicing.
He's practicing.
He's still limited, though.
Still limited. There's a rumor he may try to start rotating back in this week.
Even if he
love Aguilar, though.
Yeah, even if
he's
a
wide receiver too, regardless.
He's still a flex play at least. At least for me. And Ertz gave you what we drafted him for: 13 receptions, 94 or 11 receptions, 94 yards. As for the defense, they get the Colts and Titans coming up, so decent matchups for them.
Yeah, like the Colts matchup, love the Titans matchup, especially if Mariota's not back to 100%.
And then going on to the team that no one fucking predicted, the fuck is Fitzpatrick drinking?
Well, he looks like Conor McGregor now, which is weird.
He borrowed Deshaun Jackson's clothes, which was hilarious. That's why he dressed like that. For those that want to know, you can probably find the GIF on Twitter somewhere.
Hey, one question on Clement. Did he ever work back in after that collision with Aguilar?
I did
so
not.
late. I don't think
I did not.
I didn't see him either, but I didn't see any injury news on him either today.
Nothing.
So,
I assume it was maybe just got the wind knocked out of him or something. Then
you hope it's okay because there's been no news.
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah. So just keep monitoring for that for all you Clement owners out there like Hopper and I. For sure.
If we hear anything by Wednesday, it'll be in Wednesday's episode. Keep an eye out there.
Then back to the Bucs here. So Fitzpatrick has the most points to begin a QB season ever. I think it's like 82 points total. He finishes a 27-33, 402 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. This is the second straight week as a QB1. His deep ball completion percentage is 77.8%.
That matchup next week is sweet.
And he gets
the Steelers.
Yes.
He's my start of the week next week.
Oh yeah, and I think Godwin might be one of mine also.
Yeah.
All the Bucs outside of maybe
you don't start the running game. Yeah. You start Fitzpatrick and the receivers
and OJ Howard
and OJ Howard.
And you saw those clothes he was wearing were Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah,
right?
I just said that.
I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, and then thank you.
His facial reactions to half the shit we do are priceless. Watch on YouTube.
Yep. And as for the running game, for as good as the passing game has been, the running game has been abysmal. Barber finished with 22 yards and 16 carries, only seeing 2 targets. The thing is, and why you shouldn't drop him yet, no one's challenging him for targets, for touches or snaps, as he safely is out snapping Jacquizz Rodgers 62% to 31%.
I mean,
he's on timeouts.
This is also one of the toughest running matchups he'll have of the year. The Eagles are an incredible.
And when your passing game's as strong as it is, you don't really need to run.
Have to.
And then as for the receiver, second game in a row in which all 3 Bucs receivers got a receiving touchdown. Evans is their first sure wide receiver 1. You must start him. 10 receptions, 12 targets, 83 yards and touchdown. His catch rate right now on the season, 89.5%. His career is 55.7.
He has looked
got a level.
Awesome.
He's looked great, though.
It's going to level off, but that is fucking insane.
He's looked the best I've seen him in his career. He is going up and winning jump balls. He's getting open. This is the best
He's
I've seen
getting the
Evans.
volume week in and week out. As for Godwin and Jackson just got to monitor his health as he's been banged up for this season. And with Chris Godwin being as hyper efficient as he is, I just want to see more targets. Only 10 targets in the last 2 games, but he has a very favorable matchup coming up.
And I think he'll continue to see his volume tick up.
Yeah, and OJ Howard is locked up the tight end 1 role, 79% snap count over Brace 24%. You can roster him in all leagues, but just be also concerned 6 targets in 2 games.
If they do switch back to Winston with that snap percentage, I'm so excited for OJ Howard.
He's still far too boom busty at this point, but
just keep an eye on it.
Just keep an eye on it.
Monitor, finger on the pulse.
All right, that's all we got out of that game.
That's it.
Jumping over to Chargers at the Bills. Chargers win 31-20. It was not that close. Rivers did exactly what he needed for an easy win in the Chargers. He's 23-27, 256 yards, 3 touchdowns, all in the first half. But look for an alternative in week 3. He gets the Rams technically on the road, but it's still in Los Angeles, so who cares, I guess. But he doesn't. But after that, he has an excellent or average to above matchup in 6 straight games. He gets versus the 49ers, versus the Raiders, at the Browns, versus the Titans, at the Seahawks, and at the Raiders for the next 6 games. So Rivers will be solid. Just find an alternative for week 3.
Yep, just bench him this week.
Melvin Gordon scored 3 touchdowns in the first half, en route to the number 2 finish for running backs this week. But it was mostly touchdown based. He was actually pretty inefficient on the ground. It was like I think it was 8 carries for 28 yards, and he had a 20-yard run there. So
nope. But the receiving game
was excellent for him, and he's been used heavily as a receiver this year.
They said they were going to use him more than last year, and last year he had 58 receptions on 80 some odd targets.
And for once, the coaches were telling the damn truth. So occasionally they don't lie to us.
Sometimes they don't lie.
But the split with Eckler is real. It's almost a 50-50 split in this one. So it looks like Eckler is locked into 10 to 12 touches a game.
This was game script, in my opinion.
He had a decent number of touches early. He did finish the game, but Eckler was getting touches early in the game. So do keep an eye on this. If Gordon doesn't score 3 touchdowns, it may limit some game scripts for him if he's not getting quite as much work.
Yeah, he's going to average 3 touchdowns a game, Nick.
Hey, you never know.
It could happen.
It could.
So Mike Williams saved his day with a touchdown. He only finished with 2 targets, and they were both early. Possibly partially game script just because they didn't have to throw too much. I'd expect closer to 5-ish range for him most weeks. Williams was similar with just 3. Basically, Keenan Allen's the only one getting force-fed, though he had 8 targets. He's the only one safe to start week in and week out. Williams was a start this week just because of the positive matchup.
Yep.
Virgil Green out-targeted Gates 3-0 in this one. Virgil Green looks like the only tight end worth rostering. Gates is a drop at this point.
I wouldn't roster any of them.
I wouldn't roster either, but if you're deep enough to roster a San Diego Chargers or Los Angeles Chargers tight end,
sure.
Virgil Green. Defense was up to expectations. 5 sacks, 2 picks against the rookie, so they look to have gotten their self right. It turns out just the Kansas City Chiefs offense is a fucking matchup nightmare.
Yep.
On to the Bills. Bills offense is a mess, but Josh Allen at least gets the team somewhat ticking in the right direction here. He did show some scrambling ability, threw for almost 250 yards. I don't expect it to ever look awesome this year, but Allen at least makes maybe a streaming consideration if in some really plus matchups. They play at the Colts week 7. If he's got it shit together by then, it might be interesting.
Maybe garbage time football will save him.
McCoy was better in this one, but he's just not getting the volume that we were looking for. We were expecting him to get 20 plus touches a game. He's had 13 touches in this one, 8 touches in week 1. So unless he gets up to the 18 to 20 range, he's a borderline flex play. Also, rib injury suffered in this game, so it's going to be Ivory and Murphy as a committee role if anything serious happens and he misses time.
Rib cartilage.
Yep, that sounds fun.
That sounds fucking painful.
Apparently something he's had before, though.
I think most running backs have had it before, and they generally play through it, but it does.
It
what I've heard, it feels like you're going to die every time you get hit in the ribs.
Well,
passing game is a nightmare. Andre Holmes was the leading target with 5.
Yikes.
Zay Jones, Charles Clay, Kelvin Benjamin all had 3. So until this actually shakes out and someone takes control of it, you do not roster any Bills.
So drop Benjamin. Perfect.
And the defense is an absolute disaster. Start everyone against them.
And they lost a cornerback.
And they did. All right, that was enough time on the Bills. Panthers at the Falcons up next. Falcons 31, Panthers 24. A lot of scoring in this one. This one's actually a pretty fun game.
Yep. Starting at the Panthers, Cam Newton gave you an actually good day throwing the football. 32 of 45 for 335 and 3 with an interception. He also ran for 42 yards. So this is Cam Newton's upper ceiling. And by upper ceiling, I mean this is as good as it gets until he gives you the blow-up games where he blows the roof off of it. So don't get used to that.
Falcons defense doesn't look great.
No, they don't,
well,
especially not without Keanu Neal. Christian McCaffrey only rushed 8 times, but it was for 4.6 yards a carry. He did catch 14 of 15 targets for 102 yards. So do you think his carries ever go up?
Maybe if they're winning. They were behind someone early in this game and just going into full catch-up mode.
I mean, he was
they're
easily,
pass to run.
He was easily the wide receiver 1, but
I mean, they're not going to.
I mean, if he gets 14 or 15 targets, I don't really care.
This is more of the same from last year, though, is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, except instead of getting, 15-ish with the pass attempts, now he's over 20.
Yeah, but it's not like C.J. Anderson's getting a lot of carries either.
So, yeah, I'm not really worried about it.
I just think they're running the football.
All right. I don't think. Well, Cam is.
Yeah, well, besides
That's your running back.
Yeah,
Yep. Cam's
that's your
running back
RB1.
Devin Funch just gave what you come to expect from him. 7 receptions, 77 yards on 9 targets, cleared the 1. Jarius Wright, however, put up another solid week. And by that, I mean target-wise. He had 7 targets following his 5 the week before. He was 5 for 61 and a touchdown. Do you buy or sell that he's kind of one of those fringe 3-4 type guys going forward?
The only thing I'm concerned about at all, and this coach just came out and straight up said
DJ
this,
Moore.
is DJ Moore.
Yeah.
They want to get him more involved, which if Wright's snap percentage starts dropping off for Moore, that would kill him.
Pun intended.
Yes.
More involved.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Anyway.
Thanks, Nick.
And then Ian Thomas only saw 3 targets. Do you hold him and hope he picks it up, or?
It's one game and his first.
Depends how deep you are. If you're just churning tight ends at this point, I'd probably drop him and wait till you see something. If you're in a deeper league where people are rostering 2+ tight ends, then probably a hold.
Yeah.
All right. And on to the Falcons. Matt Ryan is Matt Ryan, 32 of 45. Wait, I think I typed in Cam's stat line again. You get it. He was like 270 something and 2, I think.
Yeah,
But he had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, and 2 rushing touchdowns, which is not normal for him. Tevin Coleman did what he does when Freeman doesn't play, 16 for 107 while catching 4-4 for 18 yards. Edo Smith, on the other hand, though, he was involved going 9 for 46, and he caught his lone target for 8 yards. So I think he should probably be rostered. He's kind of got the Coleman role without Freeman here.
In deep leagues, yeah, definitely.
And this is a tough matchup. He's going to have better ones where he's going to get more involved.
I think so, too. Ridley was a wide receiver, too, in this one, catching 4 or 5 for 64 and 1. Just Sanu's 2 targets. I don't really want a wide receiver not named Julio in this one right now, though. If I'm stashing one, it's Ridley, but I don't think I want anybody else.
Yeah, Sanu's probably droppable at this point. Ridley's been getting the snaps. He's finally getting the targets. I think he's a low priority ad.
Well, that and what this is bad, how bad this defense is, they're going to have to be throwing more, which means Ridley could find himself in flex territory.
He's worth a churn spot in 12-team leagues.
I agree.
And then Austin Hooper, 5 targets, 5 receptions, 59 and a touchdown. Great bounce back game for him. He's had some games like this in the past, but if the defense continues to be bad, he's a great breakout candidate at tight end that's going to kind of slide up there with George Kittle into that back.
And he's their best red zone weapon.
Mid tight end 1. So
they don't use Julio.
And he is their best red zone weapon. So I think Austin Hooper should probably be owned and started in the same vein as Jesse James.
Yes.
I would take Cooper over James just because there's no McDonald.
I still...
McDonald's
they're both mid 2s.
All right. That all you got in the Falcons?
Yeah, and you said they're both mid tight end 2s.
I got him as high 2s.
I got him as high 2s.
With the loss of Walker.
Area, with Walker and
Olsen gone.
Walker and Olsen gone and some of the underperformances.
All right. Vikings at the Packers for the disappointing game of the week. This one's a tie, 29-29.
Fuck this game. All right, we'll start with the Vikings here. Cousins was a monster in this game, though. Finished 35 of 48 for 425 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. To me, he's a surefire QB1. Start every single week, though he gets his tough matchup against the Rams in week 4 and week 5 against the Eagles. Just with how balanced his offense is and the fact that he continues to get it done, he is fantastic, and he gets the Bills next week. As for the running game, Delvin Cook in the handle is yet to find the end zone. He's yet to truly find it. Is truly yet to get going on the ground this season. So he's more of an RB2 with RB1 upside. With this lack of the offensive line and everything else, I think you're gonna have to start him every week just because you drafted him to. But at least he also gives you that pass catching upside. And Latavius Murray is not going to challenge him enough for snaps. Even after Cook went out with his injury, he still finished with a 68% snap count. So I still like him there. As for receivers, Diggs and Thielen did what you drafted them to do. Both finished with 13 targets. Diggs caught 9 of them for 128 and 2 touchdowns. Thielen caught 12 of his for 131 and a touchdown. And because of the passing volume in this game, Rudolph had a nice bounce back game. 8 targets, 7 catches for 72 yards. But he is clearly the number 3 in this offense. And I think you're going to see a lot more of what we saw last week and this week moving forward. So he's more of a boom-busty tight end with touchdown dependency to him. Defense didn't give you a great game. They gave you more of a floor game. The sacks were there, though. They had 4 sacks on Rodgers. Just unfortunately, they get a turnover from him. And they get a very easy matchup next week. And then you pick up Dan Bailey.
Yeah,
as for the
100% pick up Dan Bailey.
As for the Packers, Aaron Rodgers did what I think you expected him to do. 30 for 42, 281 yards, 1 touchdown with no picks. He kept it very safe for you there. The matchups do get a lot better going forward until they face the Rams in week 7, Redskins, Bills, Lions, and 49ers for weeks 3 through 6.
Yeah, Rodgers owners are salivating at the next 4 games.
Yeah, and just hope that he gets healthier so you can get more of the rushing upside that you get with him. And then as for the running game, it is a clusterfuck right now. Williams gave you a mid to flex day, though, 16 carries for 59 yards on the grounds. Led all running backs in receptions, 3 receptions on 4 targets for 12 yards. You can probably drop Montgomery. I still hold on to Williams just to see how Jones comes out the gate, but you should be picking up Jones if he's in waivers right now. As for the receivers, hopefully you all started Devontae Adams because this is why you start your studs here. He finished 8 receptions for 64 yards and a touchdown on 12 targets. Cobbs and Allison struggled though, but at least Allison gave you a flex-worthy day, 6 targets, 6 receptions for 64 yards.
It's a Cooper Kupp stat line.
Yeah, this is a tough matchup, and he showed up.
And he should be owned in all leagues.
That's what you want from your 3, though. That's what you can expect there.
Yep, and just like Rudolph, Graham had a bounce back day, 6 receptions, 95 yards. He had a touchdown call back on a penalty. But like I said with Rudolph, I think you're going to have a lot of these week 1, week 2 type of games where it's going to be pretty boom-busty.
This was the game I was looking for out of Graham. This helps.
It
Give
does.
me some confidence in him.
I probably won't not start him anytime soon.
All right, that all you got on the Packers?
That's it.
All right, let's finish up the noon games with Texans at the Titans. Titans win this one 20-17. Starting off with the Texans, Watson continues to be under fire. This offensive line is doing him no favors, but he's starting to return to form in terms of what you're looking for out of a quarterback. 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, another 44 on the ground. He was sacked 4 times. It was ugly, a lot of plays, but he got it done, and it's trending in the right direction. Will Fuller being back seemed to help a lot for him. Before we get to the passing game, though, running game turned into a mediocre 70-30 split between Miller and Blue. Offensive line is limiting both, and they're just not running the ball very much. Blue is also stealing some of the goal line carries from Miller, so he's kind of turning into a low-end 2, mid-3 at this point, just with low volume. It's only 37 touches for Miller for 2 games. We were hoping for him to be closer to about 45-ish through 2, so that's kind of concerning a little bit. Fuller returning to the lineup helps bring Nealess to the passing game, though. He immediately jumps into the mid-3 to low wide receiver 2 conversation until he hurts himself again. Hopkins also seemed to benefit from having someone else to draw coverage away from him. They both finished with over 100 yards and a touchdown in this one. Akins has looked like the best tight end so far. And Griffin running ahead for snaps right now. I want no Texans tight ends. Drop him until I think Akins wins this job, because I think he's going to. Texans defense underperformed against a really easy matchup. They had Blaine fucking Gabbert on the other side of the football. They had no turnovers created, 1 sack. They're startable next week against a bad Giants team, and then I would probably drop them.
Not just Blaine Gabbert under center, but Blaine Gabbert under center, missing 3 offensive tackles.
Yes, both starting tackles and also the back.
I wouldn't even start them against the Giants then. The Giants have a better offense than the Titans. On paper.
It might be a juicy enough matchup that you have to start them.
The offensive line of the Titans is probably better missing 3 offensive tackles than the Giants.
Yeah, at least the interior is better.
That's true.
All right. On to the Titans side. Passing game was a complete mess with Gabbert under center. This team needs a healthy Mariota back, not just Mariota back. So until we get reports that he's actually able to make all the throws again, just do nothing with this passing game. Henry out-touched Lewis in this one, 18-15. Efficiency was almost identical, 3.1 for Henry, 3.0 for Lewis. At this point, until Dewan and Conklin are back and they actually get their offensive line rolling again, I don't really want to start either as more than a desperation flex type play. The offense was really struggling there. They only won this game off of like crazy special teams plays.
Off of a fake punt.
Davis continues to be the only one getting any sort of passing volume. He had 7. It was 4 for the high for anyone else, and that was Taylor and Matthews. Taylor saved his day on a touchdown. Jonnu Smith was 0 targets. I think he's a hold at best, and you wait for Mariota to come back before you start him.
Yeah.
Defense has actually performed decently well for 2 games, 5 sacks, 3 picks, and they should be considered for plus matchups. They get the Bills in week 5. May not be a bad stash candidate if you're looking for a second defense and you got a deep enough bench to do so.
Defensive-minded head coach.
All right. Time for a beer review.
Beer review.
I know I'm feeling better after drinking it. What do you guys think of 5 Rabbits Ironica IPA?
Very, very malty, like sweet on the nose. The body gives you some tropical fruit, little citrusiness, and finishes with a mild bitterness. It's really easy drinking. Decent alcohol content too.
Yeah, it's kind of like a IPA fucked a Mexican lager, which is I think what they're going for here.
And they birth Ironica. Isn't that ironic?
Thanks, Alanis. Or should I call you God? For a little
Yes,
bit
you
of a
should
dogma,
call me God.
for a little bit of a dogma
If
reference.
anyone gets that reference, you are blessed.
All right. Well, excellent beer. I may need to grab another one here that's on the display and get that slammed down here in just a moment. But let's try to keep this moving quickly here and jump on to the 3 o'clock games. We got Cardinals at the Rams.
This will be real quick.
Try to spend 45 seconds or less on this.
Cardinals, the offense is shit. Bradford, 90 yards and a pick. I hate Mike McCoy. David Johnson, 51 total yards, 13-48 on the ground. Only 2 targets, 1 reception. He only had 14 touches. How long do you ride this misuse out before you have to start considering not starting him, putting him in timeout?
So the head coach came out and said he's going to give him snaps out of the slot this week. He, quote unquote, still has faith in Mike McCoy. So 1 more week.
1 more week? Gotcha.
Oh, God.
Larry Fitzgerald got hurt. No wide receiver or tight end did anything. I think this offense is pretty avoidable at this point outside of Fitz and Johnson.
Yes. Fitz Johnson, and that is it. Even RSJ managed to disappoint. So piss off.
I'm done with that. For the Rams, Goff gave you his normal day at 354-1 for kind of a high-end streamer finish. Gurley was inefficient, but he did pick up 3 touchdowns on the ground, 3 for 31 in the receiving game. All 3 wide receivers did what you expect them to do. Cook's the one, 7 receptions, 159 yards. Woods, 9 targets, 6 receptions, 81 yards. Cup caught all 6 of his for 63. It's wide receiver 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
That's ideally how every week goes. So they could all be started. Tight ends for the Rams, it's still a mess. Stay away. Defense, really good.
Yeah, Cooks like a 2 at worst at this point, and Cup and Woods are
Also,
startable.
I don't think we mentioned it in the news, but Sam Ficken was signed to replace Zerline.
I
Yes.
did forget that. I have Zerline's injury mentioned later.
I know you got the injury mentioned later, but I just wanted to get it out there. Ficken was signed to replace Zerline, so he's a pickup.
Yes.
And we'll wait for reports for how long Zerline is out. We do not know yet.
Yeah, he's not going on IR.
Dan, you've got Lions at the 49ers. 41's this one 30-27.
All right, so we'll start with the Lions here. Stafford had a bounce back game like I predicted, finishing 34 for 53, 347 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He did lose a fumble, though. With as bad as the running game is, and as bad as the defense is, expect Stafford to keep this up. Lions' next 3 matchups: Patriots, Cowboys, Packers coming up. Safely start him as a QB1 every week. As for the running game, Kerryon Johnson and Theo Riddick led all running backs in the snaps. Blunt is falling behind that again.
He got ejected.
As you should have. But both Johnson and Blunt did look good with their chances. Problem is they're eating into each other's work, and there's no work there to be found. As I said, with how bad this defense is, Theo Riddick is the only one to trust here. If Riddick finished with 12 targets, catching 9 of them for 47 yards, he is a flex option going forward, just with the 3 matchups coming up against. I know the Cowboys' offense isn't great, but
No rushes kind of tempers that for me a little bit, though, because if it's just the receiving for him, then
That's true.
you're really looking at a low-end wide receiver 4 or 5, which isn't flexible. So
Hey, 12 targets is awesome.
12 targets is nice, though.
he's good in PPR leagues. I'll say that. No PPR formats, he's flex for your standard. No,
Yeah, your yards per reception for running backs, so is usually about 3 or 4 less per wide than it is per wide receiver. So
yeah. And as for the receivers here, Jones and Galladay got their touchdowns. State led all teams in targets and receptions. All 3 are startable, and it looks like Galladay is potentially taking over the number 1 outside receiver spot here. Jones and Galladay were both on the field for over 90% of the time. Galladay did target Jones for the 2nd straight game, and he also outperformed Jones in the 2nd straight game. Galladay right now is wide receiver 2, and he must be started in all leagues.
Agreed. All 3 should be started.
All 3 should be started.
Outside of the worst matchups.
Yes. And they have 3 great ones coming up for them. Michael Roberts did get a touchdown.
I mean, I'd agree on the Cowboys, but we'll get to them later.
Yes. I guess. Michael Roberts got a touchdown, but he only played 9% of his snaps. Luke Wilson is cleared the starter here. Don't roster any tight ends. As for the 49ers, another bounce back game here for Garoppolo. Finished with 18 for 26, 206 yards and 2 touchdowns. No picks, but he did take 6 sacks. The offense line isn't as great. This game was mostly close until the 3rd quarter, though. We just hope to see more volume from Garoppolo here, but they didn't need to use him as much because the running game shredded the Lions front 4 again for the 2nd straight week. Breida put up 138 yards and a touchdown on just 11 carries. It's the 2nd week in a row the Lions gave up 10 yards per carry to the running back, but they also kept Morris in check. But he ended up giving you a flex-worthy day with 80 total yards and 2 receptions. This is the 2nd straight game that Breida has eclipsed the 4 yards per carry mark, and I think he should be rostered in all leagues and started as a flex position.
yeah, it's a volume question for me right now, and that's it. So he's definitely flex consideration every week.
I mean, I would treat him like Eckler plus right now.
yeah.
Morris is still leading them in snaps, but I do expect with Breida starting to kind of look better, in all formats to kind of start getting that back up to 50-50 and start taking the lead there. The only concern is the passing game. 6 total targets between 2 backs in this game and only 2 targets last week. So if they can't get it going on the ground, there is some concern there. As for the receivers, Garoppolo spread it around. He had 8 different receivers caught a pass in just 26 attempts. Garcon and Kittle led all receivers with 4 targets. Garcon caught all of his for, I think, 57 yards. Well, Kittle had a pretty bad game, 2 for 22. There is a better matchup next week against the Chiefs, who just gave up 130 yards to Jesse James on 6 targets.
Yeah, I expect a much better game for his pass catchers this week. They got it in front early and just kind of milked the clock.
It wasn't until the 3rd quarter, really, until things took shape. But like I said, you don't need to pass if the running game's efficient.
Yep.
And that's all I got for that.
All right, on to Patriots at the Jaguars. Jaguars win this one at home 31-20. From the Patriots side, Brady had a pretty mediocre game, but it's about what you expect against the Jaguars. He gave you 18 fantasy points. That's going to be pretty much what he gives you. Expect better things next week against the Lions. Running game has turned into a complete mess now that Michelle's back. 67 rushing yards total. Touch split was 11 for White, 11 for Michelle, and 6 for Burkhead. All are giant question marks going forward, with the only one I have any confidence in being White. Receiving game was a bit out of whack. White led the team with targets with 8. And then the rest of the team was Dorsett 7, Hogan 5, Patterson 5, Gronk 4. Hogan saved your day with 2 touchdowns. Otherwise, everyone else would have been just pretty borderline flex worthy at best. So Hogan, if it wasn't for those 2 touchdowns, would have been right in the same boat. Defense was also very disappointing, allowing 31 points. They did get an interception. I do like them for plus matchups like the Bills and Jets and stuff like that, but overall, this defense does not look good. It may even be worse than last year's. On to the Jaguars. Bortles may have had the best game of his career. Stat line of 29 for 45, 377 yards, 4 touchdowns and a pick, and another 35 yards on the ground. If this was a normal week, this would have been a top 2 performance. It was not a normal week, though, so it finished close to like number 5.
He's got good matchups coming up.
Yes, he does.
Next 3 weeks, Titans, Jets, Chiefs. The only one I'm even a little worried about is the Jets.
Yep.
Love them in the other 2, especially the Chiefs. Bortles will probably be a top 6 play that week.
QB3.
Yes, sir.
Yeldon only got 12 touches in this one, which really surprised me. He was pretty efficient with them, 5.8 yards per carry. Didn't get these normal passing volume that even gets when Fournette plays. So that really limited his day. Basically, the offense just went into full, we're going to score as much as possible mode and was just throwing the ball constantly all game.
Smart.
So yeah, the game script wise, it did not work out how I expected. I expected more from Fournette. Grant also saved his day with some receiving if you used him as desperation flex, but they both didn't give us as much as we wanted. Fournette is out again. I like him more next week against the Titans. Cole and Moncrief are running as the 1 and 2. Cole being the most impressive, but they had 8 and 9 targets respectively. Both those guys look to be startable. Cole, I think, is a must start at this point.
It's close.
Westbrook ran as the 3. He basically saved his day with the 61 touchdown because he didn't do much otherwise. And I wouldn't chase Austin Seferian-Jenkins real hard. He got the touchdown, but he had 5 targets, caught 3 for 23 yards and a touchdown. I think if he's only going to be seeing 3 to 5 targets a game, I'm not really chasing it too hard. This is one of their toughest matchups of the year. The only one I'm at all worried about is Kansas City in week 5. Beyond that, just plug them in and play.
Yep.
All right, Raiders at the Broncos. Broncos win this one on a last-second field goal, 20-19.
All right, starting with the Raiders. Carr, 29-32 for 288 and 1, so he was Jared Goff this week, more or less.
That completion percentage, though.
Yeah, really efficient, but still not necessarily startable either. Marshawn Lynch, 18-65 for a touchdown. Continues to have that solid kind of RB2 flex type of upside to him. Rashard Martin did nothing of note this week. And Amari Cooper, 10-10 for 116. Seth Roberts had the touchdown, while Jared Cook was 4 for 49. No clear standout as a wide receiver too. So for me, it's still just Amari Cooper, Jared Cook.
And Seth Roberts
obviously
got
being the
cut
tight
too
end.
today, didn't he?
I don't think so.
I thought I
didn't
saw him
see that.
sign with somebody else.
That'd be a dick move.
Right. So yeah, I don't think you own anybody outside of those two, though, as far as pass catchers go. Rashard, we said to pick him up last week. Probably droppable. As for the Broncos, Case Keenum had an ugly day, 19-35 for 222 and an interception. In the running game, Phillip Lindsay, 15 touches to Freeman's 9. Freeman had the touchdown. Lindsay had 170 yards and a reception. Vance Joseph said he's still going to use the hot hand. At this point, I like starting Lindsay a little bit more than Royce from a volume standpoint.
Royce is barely even startable at this point. He got outsnapped by Booker and Lindsay this week.
Yeah, he did outproduce Booker, though.
Yeah, he did outproduce Booker, but both are
right
ugly. I think Lindsay might be the only one I'm starting, and Freeman's in timeout. Booker, don't own him. As for the receivers, Thomas was 3 of 5 for 18. He gave you a dud, which he's been known to do from time to time. Sanders, on the other hand, 11 targets. Only caught 4 of them, but 96 yards. Probably the safer option at this point to me.
Yes, I completely agree.
And then Jake Butt, 4 for 48, leading tight end target getter, but he's still just a watch. He did finally kind of seemingly take a hold on the pass catching job for this tight end spot, but still not worth starting at those stat lines.
Yeah, I'd add him in tight end premium and not consider him anywhere else.
So on the Broncos defense, though, they're worse than expected. With the loss of Talib and kind of that secondary not being what they were in years past.
Maybe they still had a couple interceptions and a bunch of sacks week 1. This game was weird. Unfortunately, didn't get to watch this one, so you'll maybe have to tell me how they looked. But
I mean,
Derek Carr just had 92% completion percentage on them.
Not a lot of yards, though. So
Well, 288 though, and still, 110 to Cooper tells me they couldn't cover the stud, who was really the only one getting targets.
Yeah.
And Lynch had a relatively efficient day as well, coming off of Seattle, Lockett, and Marshall.
I
both
think
put
the
up
Raiders are
decent
just
days
going to
also.
try to find a weakness and attack it. And then if they find it early on in the game, they're going to continue to attack that. So it's going to look better.
We'll have to wait and see
This
what
week,
part of
yeah.
the Broncos are exposed, but I think there's some stuff being uncovered here.
yeah, maybe they're not quite as
It's
elite as they used to
eyebrow
be.
raising, let's put it that way.
All right, Dan, you got the Giants at the Cowboys to finish up the week.
Eli Manning decided not to take a lot of chances in this game. As 14 of his 33 completions went to Saquon Barkley.
Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, I know. Finished with 33 completions, 279 yards, and a touchdown with no picks. Wasn't a fan of moving the Brown at all either. And they just didn't want to push the ball downfield. I still don't trust them in this offense. It's bad. They have all these weapons. He
It's
doesn't
the
want to move
offensive
it.
line. He couldn't move the ball
I know.
downfield. He didn't have time to. It was on his ass too much.
Exactly. Speaking of poor offensive line play, Saquon Barkley had himself a great day in PPR leagues. Just finished with 11 carries, 28 yards on the ground, but he had 14 receptions for 80 yards on 16 fucking targets.
And the thing with that too, I didn't get to look it up, but just from watching that game, he was making two guys miss in the backfield to get to that yardage.
He looked a
total.
lot like Zeke. There's a lot of broken tackles in the first, on the first attempt, and 2-3 guys would come because no one else would fucking block.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily Barkley's fault. He's making
No,
the first
no.
guy miss every time.
No,
There's just no blocking.
No, Barkley looks fine. This is kind of like this feels like Mixon last
This
year.
is exactly
That's
Mixon last
exactly
year.
what it is. He's making plenty of people miss, but there's no help.
Yeah, there's nothing else he can do.
So unlike Mixon, Barkley has zero competition.
Yep, there's
Like,
no Geo.
So he's getting receiving.
So he's getting all the receiving work. So he's still an RB1. As for the receivers here, obviously Barkley led that day. OBJ had a quiet day, though, of 9 targets, 4 receptions for 51 yards. Shepard dudded, though, in this game. He had 5 targets for 24 yards. Ingram got the benefit of the short passing work in garbage time. In just the fourth quarter alone, with 6 minutes left, he had 4 targets for 4 receptions, 31 yards, and a touchdown. His full day was 7 for 67 and 1.
That's an ideal day.
That's
for
an
him.
ideal day, and that's what you want from him. He's not going to give you the big blow up games, but with this bad of an offensive line, he's going to give you days like this. As for the Cowboys, Dak started off beautifully at a 64-yard touchdown pass to Tavon Austin on the third play of the game. Was taking shots downfield, and then not much else happened after that. Dak only threw the ball 25 times, 16 completions, but he also gave you 45 yards on the ground. This is a floor day for Dak. This is what you're probably going to end up expecting because this offense does not trust any receiver to try to push the ball downfield. I do not trust them outside of if you need a safer option. Running game, a little bit better this week. Zeke had a decent day. He had 17 carries for 78 yards, had a touchdown on the ground. He led all receivers in this game with 6 targets, caught 5 of them for just 9 yards. Through 2 games, his 19% target share. So that Zeke's going to get the passing volume is showing up. Problem is there just isn't a lot of passing volume. And then if you started Tavon Austin for the receivers, you got lucky. I think you went 2 for 78 or some shit like that.
He broke off a big one.
Yeah. And then Cole Beasley, sorry for those who started him out there. 3 targets, 2 catches for 13 yards. You can safely drop all Cowboys receivers, though, because this offense is
I think the
gross.
only one I'd even consider holding is Gallup, and just because he's a rookie and might grow. Beyond that, they're not rosterable.
Even then.
And that's the only one that I even consider.
Yeah. All right. If you have the spot to hold him. But that's it.
All right, that wraps up the games. Let's quick run over to
rapid fires.
run into some injuries. And Dan's leaving again.
I got to go to work.
Monday hangovers.
No, Titanic.
All right, so for injuries, lighter load this week. LaShawn McCoy has his bruised, cracked rib cartilage that we mentioned earlier. Dalvin Cook left with a hamstring injury. It is reported as not being serious, but keep an eye on Wednesday practice.
Cramps. He said it was cramps.
Keep an eye on Wednesday practice. We'll see how that shakes out. And Jay Ajayi did leave with a back injury. He came back and played through it. But he'll also, once again, keep an eye on how he practices, and we'll make sure he's at 100%.
Wide receiver Danny Amendola is concussed again. So Amendola's hurt again. That should surprise nobody. Just more for Stills there. Mike Wallace, fractured ankle. He's headed to IR. That's part of why Jeffrey might be forced back earlier in this is because of that. So Aguilar just got less competition and more coverage. I think Aguilar even needs Jeffrey back at this point.
Yeah, and Kamar Aiken might be addable at this point.
He could be.
Tight end Neil Sterling is out with a concussion. They play on the short week, so don't expect him to play. So if you're in any sort of 2 tight end league,
Herndon.
you may be looking at Herndon.
Greg Zuerlein, groin injury. They went out and signed Sam Ficken, which likely means he's not going to. They don't expect him to play this week. It could be insurance. Watch the injury reports. He may be game time, but usually signing another kicker, it means that's in serious jeopardy.
Yep. Check us out Sunday morning. We'll let you know if he's going to play or not. For the offensive line injuries, we got Cam Robinson tore his ACL. He is done for the year, which does hurt that Jaguars offensive line a little bit. So that does ding Fournette, Bortles, everyone else slightly. And then Giants lost their starting center, John Halapio, I believe it is. Broken ankle with ligament damage. He is expected to also be done for the year.
Yeah, it kind of sucks because he'd fought a lot to get there, and they're trying to find continuity on that offensive line. Anyway, waiver wire?
Waiver wire.
Waiver wire.
Alternate rapid fire again. Let's go.
I just realized, how long is it going to be before Dan actually gets to hear the drop that you made for the drops?
I don't know how long it's going to be until he gets to hear these last
Probably the
two,
Bipocalypse. So. Well, he's heard of Hungry Eyes before, but he's not heard.
He's not heard the other one. So
No,
I don't know. I was kind of hoping to get to today. We did better today, but we weren't quite there yet.
All right. Kick it off with the first quarterback.
Andy Dalton, he's got 2 solid weeks in a row. Tyler Boyd looks like he's finally solidified himself as a number 2 weapon for him, so he should be owned in most deeper leagues.
Blake Bortles has a great 3 matchups coming up next, including an amazing Week 5 against the Chiefs, so he may be a guy you want to stash early.
Startable. Ryan Fitzmagic, 2 amazing games in a row against good defenses. Can't ignore that. Andy's got the Steelers coming up this week, who have been absolutely atrocious, so he's a must start.
As Dan said, he's already streamer of the week, so I guess I don't get to claim that one.
Yeah. Should do it anyway, just to be a jerk. He's not here.
For running backs, we apologize for Giovanni Bernard because we said he was a drop last week unless you're a Mixon owner. Well, now he's in priority yet because Mixon's missing 2+ games.
Yeah. Phillip Lindsay, he may have won the starting role already. Even if he hasn't, he's getting the majority of touches, and he looks like the more efficient back at this point. And Royce Freeman's a hold, Booker a drop. Just to recap earlier.
Corey Clement, back issues for Ajayi. Sproles is hurt. Clement may feast in their absence. One of the best offensive lines in the leagues, and Clement's looked good for the touches he's gotten this year.
Yep, just like we said earlier, though, watch the injury reports because he did look to get banged up late in that game, but we haven't heard anything yet, which usually no news is good news there. Aaron Jones back from suspension. Williams and Montgomery have done absolutely nothing. He should get opportunities early and have the chance to take a stranglehold on this job.
Austin Eckler, he looks to have a 10-to-touch weekly floor. He's been very efficient with his work on a pretty solid offense.
Yep. Buck Allen or Javorius, chronically underrated, year in, year out. Team seems to like him. He's getting about 50% of the work there.
And he's even getting goal line carries over the bigger Collins.
Yep.
And this is a back-to-back here. Chris Ivory and Marcus Murphy. McCoy has some bruised ribs. This is going to be a timeshare between the two. I don't love either as an ad, but if it ends up being a long-term thing for McCoy, one of them may have some value.
This is also a back-to-back, but Nick will figure it out because they're not really back-to-back in this list. Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins. Wilkins, the more efficient runner out of him and Mack last week in an even split. Nyheim Hines got the goal line work. He was heavily involved in week 1. It's still something to keep an eye on. You should probably own all 3, but Wilkins and Hines are the most available.
Latavius Murray, hamstring issue for Cook makes him an ad for any owner of Cook, and even if you're in a deeper league looking for somebody who may have some upside if anything serious happens to Cook.
Ito Smith, he's got the Coleman role while Freeman's on the shelf, and a better matchup coming up this week. So Freeman, last I heard, was out at least 2 to 3 weeks.
And it could be as long as a month.
Yep.
Mark Walton, he should be the change of pace back behind Gio while Mixon is out. He's been inactive because he doesn't play special teams, but he's expected to be the guy behind Gio while Mixon is inactive.
And they'll probably use them both.
Yep.
All right, wide receivers.
All right. For Chris Godwin, why the fuck is he still available? We've been hammering this enough.
We've hammered this since preseason. Geronimo Allison should absolutely be owned. We said it last week. 6 catches again. He finishes at number 2 on this team this week. Wide receiver 3 in Green Bay. High volume passing offense should absolutely be owned.
Keenan Cole, not sure he's available in over 50% of leagues. He is the one on this offense.
He is available in over 50% of leagues. I saw it earlier.
That was me being a question of I'm not sure how he's owned over.
How
he's available in over 50%. I should say.
I actually think I put that in there.
You did, yes.
Okay, yes. Well, that's true. It's actually just below. It's like 46.2 or something like that. Deshaun Jackson, just shut up and start him at this point. As much as they're throwing touchdowns, and especially this week.
Yep, Antonio Callaway, Gordon is gone. He looks like he's starting. Love the talent and kind of pairing up with this. You got Rashard Higgins, who's fighting with the number 2 spot with him while Gordon's gone. The two of them, one of them may win this job outright and would have some value in that case.
Yep, John Brown looks to be the one in Baltimore with some big play upside. You should absolutely be rostering him in case of injury or bye week fill-in or even matchup.
Mike Williams fighting for the number 2 spot in San Diego. He is the best red zone target they have. I like him over Tyrell Williams after what we've seen through 2 weeks.
Yep. Tyler Boyd's going to be a real popular pickup this week. He was targeted with volume. He looked good with it in all facets of playing wide receiver.
D.D. Westbrook, volume's a bit of an issue for him, but he's been an effective number 3 for Jacksonville. If anything happened to Cole or Moncrief, which I know Moncrief got a bit dinged up this week, Westbrook would be very interesting.
On a lesser scale, James Washington, James Justin Hunter was inactive this week. Washington's got the number 3 role. He didn't do a lot, only 1 of 5 targets for a touchdown, but high volume offense, especially at home.
Yeah, especially if 17 and 19 targets don't go to Brown and Juju.
Brown
there
and
might be some
Juju.
for him. Calvin Ridley, snaps have been there both weeks, but he finally started doing things in week 2.
Yeah,
Keep an eye to see if this role continues to expand.
Sanu only had 2 targets. Paul Richardson, productive week, 6 targets each of the last 2 weeks. Crowder's not getting it done. Somebody's got to step up a wide receiver. He's getting the volume.
And Terrell Pryor, he put up a solid week. He looks like he might be the Jets' number 2 receiver. 8 targets in this one. Possible depth pickup for you.
Yep, 6 receptions, 80-plus yards.
All right, finished up with tight ends.
Jesse James, back-to-back 60-plus yard games on 5 targets. He should absolutely be owned.
O.J. Howard, he's locked down the number 1 tight end job in Tampa. He's had 70+% snaps in back-to-back weeks, and when Winston comes back, his target volume should increase accordingly.
Austin Hooper saw a solid bounce back in week 2. The defense isn't playing up to snuff, so they got to throw. He should see increased usage and be at least worth a look.
Austin Seferian-Jenkins, I would like to see more, but if you're really desperate at tight end, he'd be 4th on my priority list here.
And then Jake Butt, he finally took the starting tight end role in Denver. Look for that role to increase as the season goes on. He was 4-4 last week, but Hireman only had 2 targets behind him, so it should be Butt.
All right, Dan gave us a couple defenses to look at in week 3. You got Houston against the Giants. Don't love Houston's defense so far this season, but that is a solid matchup. Seattle versus Dallas. Dallas is not going to be putting up a lot of points this year, even against a below-average defense. Miami versus Oakland. Miami's defense has actually looked pretty good. Oakland's offense, not so much. And then he put risky on this, but I actually love this pick of Cleveland versus the Jets.
Yeah, really either defense in that one.
Yeah, either one.
Yeah.
Jets or Cleveland, I'm going starting next week.
And one more thing, we're going to tell you who we would like to see you get rid of to make these waiver wire ads with our weekly cuts.
Weekly cuts.
All right. On quarterback, Alex Smith. If you can't get it done at home versus the Colts, we don't need to own you.
Yep. Marcus Mariota's got a lingering nerve injury in his elbow, which is affecting his grip and his throwing. You don't know when he's going to be back, and there's questions about the offense from the O-line on down. He shouldn't be owned.
Eli Manning has had 2 not good weeks, even with his weapons. He's lost an offensive lineman. He's got Houston, New Orleans, Carolina, Philadelphia coming up. Not great matchups. He's going to be under fire.
Yeah, all the time. On the running backs, Jalen Richard, Gruden seems to have figured out that Lynch and Martin are still better options, and even Martin wasn't used that much. So Richard may flash week to week, but he's not worth the roster spot.
All right, I apologize if this jinxes McCaffrey because this sounds a little bit like Gio last week. But C.J. Anderson, he's strictly a potential McCaffrey handcuff at best.
Yeah, he started the game, but only 3 carries. Ronald Jones is still owned in 30% of leagues after 2 weeks on the inactive list. Yes, Peyton Barber hasn't been efficient, but if you need a churn spot, not a bad place to look for a guy who hasn't even been worth keeping active on game day.
If you're in leagues with 5 or 6 bench slots, I would kick him to the curb. At wide receiver, Robbie Anderson has been the number 3 target on a pretty mediocre offense. This is still growing. I would rather have Pryor over Anderson.
Yep, Allen Hurns is buried on the worst passing offense in the NFL. They don't really like anybody, so...
Yeah, all of them are droppable, but Hurns, I think, is the biggest flashing target that needs to be dropped.
Yep.
Rashard Matthews, 6 targets in 2 games. Do not need that, especially with his disappearing act during training camp and no Mariota starting right now.
Jordy Nelson seems to be an afterthought behind Cooper and Cook, as is the rest of that wide receiver core. We talked about it in the game review, but he's not going to give you what he did in Green Bay like people were expecting.
Yeah, they're not even using him in the red zone like I was hoping. Tyrell Williams, he's got 4 catches in 2 games. Isn't enough for keep him around, especially with some tougher matchups coming for them soon.
Yep. And then Mohamed Sanu, under 20 yards each of the first 2 weeks, 19 in week 1, 18 in week 2. Ridley looks to be taking over the spot.
Yep. I thought there might be a little bit closer between them two, but Ridley may be proving me wrong. At tight end, people are still owning Cameron Brate. He's got 0 catches through 2 games. He's getting under 30% of snaps. Does not need to be rostered.
Nope. Antonio Gates, no targets through week 2.
Ryan Griffin, likely not the starting tight end by week 8. Thomas and Akins have both looked better at their roles, blocking and catching respectively. I think one or both of them may pass Griffin shortly.
We're done.
All right, to preview the rest of the week, Wednesday, our lounge segment is going to be early season buys and sells. So players we're going to be trying to offload from our rosters and players we're going to be trying to buy off of other people's. So get you some trade talk early. If you got any trade questions, tweet them at us. If we get some time in this segment, we try to get those in there. Tweet them at BeerFieldFF if you want to get those on the show. For Friday, we're going to, of course, preview all of week 3 for you guys. And then Sunday, we've got our live start sit segment and news on YouTube, 10:30 a.m. Central Time, Beer Fueled Fantasy Football on YouTube. Go and subscribe to the channel to make sure you can catch us live there. Anything else, Hop, before we call an episode?
I do not got anything else. Let's call it an episode. We'll talk at you all Wednesday.
All right, reminder, Dan Thury is Thury BFF. Hopper is Hop BFF with 2 P's.
Thank you.
And I am at Nick Sparts. We'll catch you guys next time on Beer Fueled Fantasy Football.
See ya.